Welcome back to the Blk Blu podcast, episode 24. I'm your host, Kyle Morgan. Thank you for all your support. Please click that subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Follow us on all the platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as the YouTube channel. Click that little bell for notifications and join us on Patreon. If you're not joining us on Patreon, you're missing half of the episodes. There's bonus episodes that you can only see there at the link above. We'd like to thank our sponsors, first and foremost, Blue Bearing Solutions, for sponsoring this podcast. But Roca Performance Eyewear has been sponsoring this podcast as well this year, and we're so thankful for everything that they've helped us with this podcast. But I want to introduce our guest host today, Brent Tucker, retired Green Beret, former Delta Force operator, and owner of First Responder Coffee Company, or FRCC, which does coffee, cigars, and now bourbon, as well as co-owner at HPTRT.
Thank you. Long overdue.
Yeah.
Long overdue.
This is true. But I feel like it's us not forcing it, man. And
yeah,
maybe I did force you to come up here, but I think just the timing of it is perfect.
Well,
in our lives, but it is a long time coming.
Not to divulge too much information, but the timing seemed perfect, and until I forgot I had committed to training a SWAT team, and then for the same dates, and then we had to rearrange the whole schedule.
It was almost like it was like too good to be true. And he was like, those dates are good. Erica blocked off the 3 days we were going to spend together.
Yeah.
And
you're like, sorry, it's short notice. Like, no, sometimes short notice works out even better.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to call, I think pretty much the very next day. Like, it's all wrong. All wrong. I screwed up.
You called me. I was in the course, and I was like, hey man, I'm in the course right now. He's like, call me back now. And I was like, I can't right yet. And then you talked to Erica.
I felt so bad.
She did tell me, you were like, how mad is Kyle right now?
Oh, I felt so bad.
I wasn't mad at all.
The person that I have managing the training schedule, we had a handover, and it's funny. I actually thought, man, that went really smooth, and that was the one thing that fell through the cracks was that department.
Yeah,
but it worked out.
Yeah, man,
it's just gonna be a really busy week for me, but it worked out.
Yeah, well, thank you for not canceling. I mean,
yeah,
because if had you canceled, who knows when we've been able to to get this in, man. And it is something where we've been talking about doing something together for years now, and it's just timing. We both are starting companies and running them, and you're doing several different other things. You're a podcaster now. So am I.
And it's not like we're not used to doing things together. We've done things together before. We went to that military course. I can't remember the name of it, but we did a military course together. We've done things together,
We've done the hardest military training course you could ever do together, and I think it'd be silly to not talk about that a bit too. But we did OTC together, and we had a smaller class. There wasn't too many of us, and even at the end, it was
even smaller.
It was even smaller. But just you go down the list of names of people, man, and it's just like you learn things about each other, but you also, you form this image in your mind of that person, and knowing that we all endured the same things in our own ways, and collectively accomplished the mission that we were being asked to do. But you were one of the guys that I was just like, man, this guy's just really, really fun to be around. Like, even in a really crappy place, not that it's a crappy place, but excuse me, where we're having to do some of the hardest things that you could ever be asked to do in your military career, and you always had a smile and something funny to say. And I was always I'd always get pumped, even though we weren't on the same team. Throughout there, and I don't think we ever rotated onto the same team, did we?
I don't think so.
But
I don't think so.
but like we know all the same people, all the
Right.
same stories, and
Yeah.
we shared a lot of the same.
Right.
It was a small class.
You
So,
right. I was about to say we were too small, so
Yeah.
it might as well have been on. Everyone was on the same team
Yeah.
to some degree.
Yep.
And I think it's in a weird way a really hard balance to strike, which is, we're doing the most dangerous, high risk training in the military. It's very serious. You're trying out for a very serious job.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, to be honest, like we didn't even like fully. I think we talked about this a little bit. Like I know I didn't fully understand like how serious it was. How
there's no way we
serious
could
the
have. There's
job was.
no way we could have understood what we. Even at some point during the course, you think you're like, okay, I have a better understanding now. I think I know what I'm about to step into, and you have no idea what you're about to step into when you cross the hall.
And that's what they do though, is like they do. It's not that they're tricking you; they're just preparing you in such a way. To be honest, like that's how I've learned how to teach the things that I teach at Blue Bearing, and the team teaches, because like they meet you exactly what you're going to be shown, what you need to do, how you need to do it to be successful. Now it's going to be on you whether you can be successful. But what I mean is that like they only put so much onto you, and then they put more. And then if they see you have the aptitude, then they put more. Yeah. It's like when you go across the hall, it's like hey man, you're a 6IC. I need you to carry this tool and be the best at that.
Yeah.
And then we're going to progress you and so on. So it's almost like you don't know not the severity, the seriousness of what you're about to embark on. The seriousness of it, but the heaviness of it. I talked about this last night.
Yeah.
Like the heaviness of it.
And to some degree, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like, to some degree, you want people and maybe this is a weird way to put it, but to be as naive as possible and, and find out the hard things when it's time to find out the hard things,
Yeah.
I don't know a better way to put that.
Lay the basic foundation. Like they lay a foundation and you can either lay it or not.
Because I don't think we'd have had as much fun as we did have had we known.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think everyone would have taken it a lot more. It's not that we didn't take it serious. My gosh, we did. It took it so serious. But I don't think we would have been capable of having as much fun as we did if we knew the severity and how heavy things were going to be later. So in a weird way, that's kind of what I mean by I think it's best that you keep the naiveness there for as long as possible, because there'll be time for that later.
It's funny because, like in the Army, it's like, you go through these things together, but this false motivation thing, where it's like it's not that we were falsely motivated, but we can make light as a class of anything.
Anything.
Almost to the point where I think the instructors were probably like, what is going on with these dudes, man?
I'll tell you, it was one of the best times of my life. Like it really was. And it was like you said, it's the hardest course in the whole military, and it was absolutely stressful and the best time of my life at the same time. And when we talk about getting older, it's just that feeling. You look back, I actually think it's a Macklemore song. I don't quote Macklemore very often. But yeah, it's along the lines. The lyrics are like, I wish I'd have known that I was in the good old days when I was in them. Like, that's the problem with the good old days. Like, you don't even know you're in them until it's too late.
Yeah. That's always that's like a hindsight thing. Yeah. Always. But the thing about even being able to see the good old days for what they were, it's still gratitude though. And that's one of the greatest gifts that we've been given is love, but gratitude, because that's our answer when we're struggling from anxiety or whatever. They can't exist in the same space, like gratitude and anxiety, and the way God designed us. So like true gratitude, even if we're looking back, as long as like, man, those were the good old days. All right. Yeah. As we're talking, like for sure. but it's also like, you leave and go on back on your path and mission you're on. It's not that I'm like, oh, I wish I had that again. It's just like, man, that was such a good time.
Yep.
Versus it could turn into something where it's like dwelling on something like you're never going to replace it now.
Right.
And then that whole depression thing that we all have to combat is a real thing, man. It's a daily struggle at times, even because we're forgetting what to be grateful for.
Yeah. Yeah. As you said that, you're talking about going back. And I think some people equate the best time of their life, like to college or high school, whatever it is. And like, man, I wish I could go back. I don't think I've ever thought to myself, even though OTC may be one of the greatest times of my life, I don't know if I've ever looked back and said, I wish I could go back to that course.
All over again. Negative. No, but that's the beauty of it, is like, if we're moving forward in our lives, we're able to reconnect after almost 15 years of a period that we would both agree was one of the greatest experiences in our military career, for sure.
Right.
And then reconnect and to stay connected is it takes work, but it's also like we can pick up where we kind of left off, and I think it's one of those things like, Brent was one of those guys in the course that, like I said before, he was very, very positive, but always like had a smile on his face and made things that were difficult fun to do. And that's huge, especially if taking the job serious is required, right? Taking the mission serious is required, but not taking yourself so serious.
Never take yourself too serious.
Yeah.
Isn't that the truth?
Which isn't it like a skate? It's not like you saying like, I threw that shot. Oh, well, no, man, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is like, have fun while you're doing it. Focus on what the blessings are in the not the struggle, but the challenges that you're facing, the blessing of that opportunity, all those things, like, but have fun while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Man.
And like I said, I think it's hard to strike that balance, which is when you're doing a very serious job, it's already serious. You're already putting pressure on yourself. There's no reason for everyone to walk around yelling at each other or being overly serious about it. Like, you have to have a break from that. The other side of that is it's a very serious job. You see someone joking around too much, and you get like this guy doesn't take anything serious.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a tightrope to walk.
Well, the thing about that is the thing about that is at a place that measures performance at such a like fine detail,
mm-hmm.
like there's really no way of hiding. Like, oh, he doesn't take anything serious. It'll show up in your scores or in your performance. It will show up if you're actually just, that's your personality, to make light of everything and then perform on demand.
I completely agree. Yeah. The results of your performance will show all of us how serious you took this.
Yeah. And that shows like the work that you do on your own to prepare.
Yeah.
The work that are you a good leader, and can you be led well? Yep. Which is what that course is really all about.
Yep.
Is like, as we rotate through everything, like understanding and showing the ability to process information, to apply it and repeat it, and then grow with what you're being asked to do, to the point where you're in leadership positions and you're rotating through that. And can you lead well, and can you be led well? Which is challenging at times, especially when you're all in the same course and doing the same things, and you're all students.
You're all students together.
Yeah.
But I'm your student boss right now.
I'm in charge. I'm in charge. Like, no, you're not, dude. You're Kyle, dude. Shut up.
Yeah.
But it's so fun because it's not like, because you've been through other military schools, and it's not like they've recreated the wheel. It's applying that, that student roles, and then peer reviews and all the things through all the courses we've been through.
Mm-hmm.
but it's over such a long period of time in the instructors, you get really close with the instructors, man. It's unlike any other course I've been to where you may remember a face or maybe a name of one of your instructors through all your military schooling. But this one, it's like, nah, man, you go from Sergeant Major so-and-so to then first names at a certain point, right? And you're like, and there's a reason though.
Yeah.
Because in a year, you're going to be working for one of them.
That's right.
And it's like,
yeah.
And
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. So they're invested in, not just to give you a qualification and send you out into the bigger army. It's like, no, we need you to, if you're going to pass this, like our name's on it, because you're going to work for me potentially.
Yeah. And it's, it's a personal name. There's a huge amount of unit pride, and there's a huge amount of realization that this is, we don't know what you're going to be asked to do in the future, but we know you're going to be asked to do something, and it's going to be difficult. And we have to, it's just the seriousness that comes with, and I don't know how else to explain it. Everywhere else assumes you might have a bad day. Everyone else assumes they're going to have a hard mission, but at the unit, we know it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just a very different mindset to hold a standard and preparation.
This episode is brought to you by Unit 4 Training Rifle, the only AR training platform built from the ground up to fill that gap between live fire and dry fire. Unlike converted duty weapons or airsoft knockoffs, the Unit 4 looks, feels, and performs like your real rifle, but it's 100% safe and it's classified as a non-firearm by the ATF. That means zero risk of live ammunition, no range restrictions, and total confidence in your reps, whether you're at home, in school, or in a shoot house. Free test and evaluation programs for professional agencies. Check them out at unitsolutions.com. Make sure to use our code Blk Blu for 10% off your order. That's BLKNBLU for 10% off your order. Yeah, I definitely think that one of the biggest observations that I've had more recently, even just with reconnecting with you over these past couple of years, is you're still the same person. You're still the same Brent that I remember from 15 years ago. But what has changed, because you've always been a good man, is you're still very capable because you take it serious. Those skills that have been shown to you and that you've nurtured. But you're more vulnerable. You're more, you have a greater sense of humility and compassion. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't mean that in a negative way.
No,
I mean that in a positive way.
I've said it before. 30-year-old Brent was something else, and and late 20s combat diver, combat veteran Brent, one combat, maybe two combat deployments. I was cocky, and then send me all the way to the top. I never felt like I was cocky to my teammates or to people who I perceived to be on my level. But if for some reason,
but you had a level,
but I had a level,
yeah.
And if you didn't meet it, and this is people are going to take this out of context. So it's always hard to, you always be careful what you say behind a mic that lives on the internet, but
send it, dude.
But if you didn't meet my expectations, but this is where I say cockiness, and that's, I actually would defend that if I had to, but it's not that you didn't meet my expectations because of how awesome I think I am. Go back as a proud Green Beret combat diver. It's actually the opposite. I don't think that highly of myself, or that I don't think I'm the best, but I do know the work that I put in. But I think highly enough of the Special Forces community and the Green Beret community, and that's what my standard is. And you're not meeting the standard that I know you can meet, and you're not meeting it. Like that's what upsets me, and I'd let guys know. and they
So
didn't,
nothing's changed.
and they and they didn't appreciate that.
No.
Funny enough, years later, some guys would come back to me and be like, you know what? I know people may have thought that of me, and I wasn't real happy that you told me that, but you're the only one that would actually that would actually tell me that. And but the same thing I say on that is 30-year-old Brent shouldn't be acting like 20-year-old Brent, and 40-year-old Brent shouldn't be acting like 30-year-old Brent. And we'll see what my 50s bring on. So that's just a part of life, and just being able to change.
Well, I think
or I should say, actually, here's the anomaly of it: capable of changing without changing at all. If that makes any sense, because the same thing is
it's growth.
You're the same old Kyle, and I'm the same old Brent, but we're also very different.
Yeah.
So it's weird to think about in that aspect.
Well, that's like people. We were talking about this a little bit last night. I think people see operators or warriors or former operators, and some of them, and they're like, man, you guys are so humble, and it's like, well, yeah, I am way more humble than I have ever been in my life, because I thought I felt like I was always humble if you could achieve the same standards that we're setting forth to do, right? But I would not have time for people that were just collecting paychecks, man, just wasting time, and I would be very judgmental about that too. And not behind the scenes, I would say it right to someone's face.
Yeah.
But very, very not controversial, but very what's the word when you
just very forward?
Yeah, like
almost confrontational.
Yeah, confrontational. Yeah. So I'm not confrontational anymore, but that doesn't mean that I still don't have some of the same standards. I just realized that through all the heaviness that we were asked to do once we finished that course, and it's our own journeys, but like that's what you see now is because I've taken and I've been humbled. I've taken all those lessons on the battlefield and off, and I have been humbled. And, ultimately for me, the sober-mindedness side of this and being sober for 4 years, next month will be 4 years, is something I'm extremely proud of, because I was using substances or things to help me heal through the heaviness that I couldn't process, that I didn't have good systems in place to process. And that's why getting sober was huge, because now I can take things in stride. I can take things, I can find the blessings in the struggles. I can find, like God, it tells us in scripture, I'll use every struggle for your good and my glory, in the suffering, so God doesn't hurt us, but he does test us. God will never hurt us, but he will test us. And, right now,
he just doesn't have to test us so much.
Yeah. Right now, there's a lot of testing going on, dude. And, I think that's something that you're a follower of Christ, right?
Absolutely.
And, I even learned something last night about your brother, and his journey and path. And I'm very interested in learning from people that are just like we were with our jobs before, learning from that team leader, the 3IC, learning from the team leader, learning from troop sergeant, and then so on as we move up, one up, two down, that whole mindset of I always want to be able to learn how to do the job above me, and then never forget how to do the jobs, two below me.
Right.
It's now my job is to stay sharp on the shooting, moving, communicating, medicating stuff, and to teach it is harnessing so many aspects of my own skill. But my real job is to become more Christ-like, and I have to learn from people that are further along in their walk in faith. And the fact that you have your brother that you can lean on, and his journey and his vocation or profession, with theology and I think it's wonderful, and I'd love to do if he has his podcast. I'd love to sit down with him too.
Yeah, he's got a podcast called Truth in the Dark. He just started it. Has a couple episodes. Working with my brother is one of the favorite things in my life right now. He's the sales director at FRCC.
Is he really?
Yep. So I get to email him, call him, text him every day. Yeah, I'm still busy between training or the podcast or speaking at events or whatever it is. Just life is. I used to say, man, as I'm just in a really busy time right now, but it's been a couple of years now and it hasn't slowed down. So I just think this is now my life. I'm not in a busy period. This is just my life, and I've accepted it. And
I think they're new things. I think they're new in the sense that, like, from what we used to do to now is like, no one's gonna tell you where to be.
Yeah.
Now, don't be late, let her out of uniform. No one's gonna tell you that.
You told me where to be this morning.
I did. You're right, but that's because Starship told me where to be. But we have to build those systems, man, and we have to build, like, we have to learn. The type of men that we are, we have to learn by doing.
Yeah.
And this is one of the biggest things with Erica. She's like, no, you don't know. Like, you make a plan and then you do it. I'm like, no, let's just do it. And then we'll revise the plan based on what we learned. And I think it's just like through these past few years is just learning lessons and, things that are good for you, for your life, the people, the companies the opportunities.
Yeah.
On the surface, you see them intentionally, like, as not a single time have you been like, have you been like, this is probably a bad idea, but let's just go do it,
Yeah.
Now, then that's the growth thing. And
right.
I say that for myself because there was times where I knew things were bad for me, like alcohol, but I still was like, let's do it anyway. That's the whole, we can rationalize anything.
That's right.
That's the fear. That's the balance of being capable.
Yeah. My joke is if justification was a fruit of the spirit, I would be, everyone would know I'm a believer because I can justify anything.
Man, that's good.
Unfortunately,
write that down.
Unfortunately, it's not.
That's a really, really powerful statement just now.
But working with my brother, not only is he my best friend, he's my brother. He's my right-hand man in FRCC, gets everything done. Everyone hears a horrible, especially where we are in life. We have a bunch of other friends that started a business, or you meet other people that have a business. All of them have a horror story of partnering with someone in business and getting taken advantage of, or just a bad partnership. And when it comes to FRCC and with my brother, it's just, I'll never have to deal with that.
Yeah.
At least
there's a lot of peace in that.
At least there. And there's a lot of peace in that, which is as chaotic as my life can be, to be able to have that peace. That sort of peace is crazy. And then for him to also be, I joked with you last night. I mean, what we are as operators to CQB, which even though I've gotten really humble as you have over the years, I'm pretty not humble to say that when it comes to CQB.
That's actually the only time I think you see me not humble.
That's the only time. That's right.
But I do think we talked about this. Like, I don't consider myself an instructor because I feel like the depth of knowledge and through the experiences that you have and I have and the people that we work with as a part of our, on the team at Blue Bearing is complementary of that. But to be able to stand on what is the truth in the basic principles of clearance, room clearance and close quarters battle. And it's not just I'm reading something. It's, as an instructor, it's like I can memorize something and regurgitate that and actually get really good at convincing others that no, this is the gospel. This is there's really a few things that I'll stand like as absolutes in those environments. And then it's like, how do I articulate this message of a principle without spending too much time, trying to break down the what ifs and all these. And I'm like, well, let's just run what you're saying. Let's just set it up and run it. Cause I don't have time, and being good stewards of everyone's time is huge, man. But that is something where it's also the level of professionalism too. It's not just like, cause I believe that pride would be the opposite of humility. And I'm very proud of the level of skill and knowledge to teach CQB, but it's also, I won't argue with anybody, because I don't want to spend time arguing with anybody about this. Like, if you want to learn from me, like, let's learn, let's teach, let's create a learning environment. Let's learn from each other even.
Right.
But we're wasting time if we're trying to argue about theory, or something that's missing in most training environments is context. The context of the mission, the enemy, the time, all that.
I'll say it.
Yeah, dude, do it.
All right.
Yes.
This is,
here we go.
No, I still have my inner 20s Brent still has an inside voice. He's
still in there somewhere.
He's still in there.
Yeah.
And so, it does. It kills me at some point when someone either hires me to come out there, or because of FRCC and their mission, there's a lot of teams that this team I'm going to go train is when I leave here tonight to go is, we're given free training to. It's part of our mission as a company,
which I want you to talk about later, but just a little bit more about
for
that.
Sure.
Yep.
But whether you paid for me to come out there or you blocked off time in your schedule just for me because you think my background is important enough to come out here and talk to you about it, and then someone on your team's going to argue with me about some tactic, right? And this is not offensive. This is not offensive. This is just the truth. If you want to equate it to, I was a all-star NFL level tactician, just the top of the top of the top. And whatever, someone's gonna get offended by this, but it just is what it is. Whoever I'm talking to, you can equate it to a high school level, a college level, whatever it is. There's levels to everything.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't make it to my level, and that's not a hit on anyone. But in no other world would an amateur racer go up to a NASCAR racer and be like, let me tell you how to take that turn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just doesn't exist. But for whatever reason, and in this world, that's my inside voice. Being, well, like, you're really arguing with, like, what? Why are you arguing with me on this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've proven that I know more than anyone in this room about CQB, and I know how bad that's that's not something I almost like want to say out loud, but it's true. And you're going to argue with me about it? It's kind of crazy.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
So
I never say that, by the way. I just sit there, I take it, and I say something really humble back, and we have some dialogue.
Yeah.
But
well, there's a thing, so I don't forget. I think if you could touch on, like, you gave an example of, like, last night where you were like, movement equals movement.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great example for that.
Yeah, movement creates movement.
Movement creates movement, and then people are like, well, we're not on that level. It's okay in that moment for them to say, well, we're not on that level, so we need to be taught things to this level. Well, here's the deal, man. Like, we were all taught at a basic foundational level, and as long as we don't violate those basic foundational elements and principles, like, these tactics and techniques work with the context that we need, that's missing in most cases of the type of mission and in situation, mission, enemy, time, terrain, all that. I used to joke, Met TC dependent, right, or whatever. It's like, oh, it's right, it's just like a scapegoat thing.
But
but it's so true.
Right. But
And-
people do use it as a scapegoat, but you're absolutely right. But,
Yeah.
but it is so true.
And you can filter through the
Right.
people that are just, well, it's Met T dependent or
Right.
whatever. It's like, well, here's the situation. And I'll just lay out a situation, be like, now let's run this and then see how it shakes out. But my point I wanted to make is like we got to the level that we were at, not only got there, but we're successful in our own rights, like through the breadth of the operational challenges that we face. Right. But
Right.
what people think is, well, y'all are just the best at hostage rescue. Yeah. That's our no-fail mission. That's the national mission force. Like we train on that more than anything we train on. But people forget, like all those other missions that we do, for lack of better terms, are easy.
Right.
Because when the answer is we can set the conditions with all the resources and the time and the tools that we have and all the things, like to prep them until we want to let them know we're there. Like it's very different than, hey man, the clock's ticking and we have to save that person and that person's life.
Right.
And we're there to risk our lives to do it. And that's the no fail side of it. But we are the best at that and at all the other things.
Yeah.
Because those are easier. They just are.
You know, you're right in that aspect. I think that's a
people think we don't do those though.
Yeah,
like we all just do HR. We don't do HR here. I'm like, well, you're a SWAT team. Your core task is hostage rescue, response, exigent circumstances.
That's another one that gets me sometimes. Like, well, you know,
we're talking about SWAT right now, guys.
We're law enforcement. We do things a little bit different than you guys, and sometimes that is true. But when it comes to hostage rescue, and there's no difference. There's absolutely no difference in what we do and what they do in hostage rescue. It's the core principles are the exact same. The rules of engagement.
Well, you have 50 people doing it. Okay. And
it's you know, and not everyone, you know, gives me that pushback. There's always, it's very few. In fact, I don't think
you have unlimited resources, man. Of course, you guys are gonna be the best at it, man. It's because of the individual people coming together.
Now it feels like I've said two negative things about either people arguing with me or hostage rescue or SWAT teams telling me that, well, you know, we're not, we work under different rules. We're not you guys. And I just want to say for a second, and we've talked about this, I already know you do too. That is not like the norm. I love training SWAT teams.
I get to meet some of the greatest Americans in this country that are serving this country in that way.
Full of good guys.
And I have nothing but time for that as well.
Right, yeah. But it also kind of reminds me sometimes, like, I think it's really unique. And if people aren't used to this culture, they may not understand it. But you know, when back at our old job, when we got done with a hit, it could be training, it could be real world, it could be anything. We only talked about what's wrong.
Yeah.
There's why waste our time patting ourselves on the back and talking about what went right.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, you know, when I talk about what needs to be fixed, you know, in various areas of what it be, you know, training side or, you know, tactics, throughout the training world, people are like, well, you don't, I don't think they don't think I'm very positive because I only talk about what's wrong.
Yeah.
Well, why would I sit there and tell you about what's right? Why would we only have so much time, energy, and resources and bandwidth. Why would we sit there and just talk about what's right? It's ridiculous to me.
Yeah. I think that's something that's important to highlight, that like I reinforce when I get to train with law enforcement teams, like how grateful I am that they're doing what they're doing. And then through that training, identifying, hey, you guys are the right guys to do this, man. And I am so appreciative for that. But the thing is you're critical about what's wrong with certain things, because once you see something for what it is, we're so accustomed to spending more time on a training hit hot washing it than it took to even set it up sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's in like, you don't, what we don't realize is that from a team mindset, like the excruciating level of detail that we put into planning and rehearsals, contingencies, and whatnot allow us to be successful on the target, but also the enemy gets to vote, and we learn these lessons in blood and injury and mistakes, and then we capture them, and we try to capture as many lessons as we can as it pertains to tactical grievances, because one thing that's missing almost every time is perspective. So like you and I go in the same room, you go right, I go left, like some things we stay on the same wall because we strong wall. Just kidding. We make an L. Points of domination. And my point is that we see things from a different perspective, even in the same room on a clearance sometimes, almost all the time, because I can't be in your shoes.
That's right.
So
we better be in different sectors, seeing different things.
Yeah. Like, what do you get off of me, dude? Get away from me. It's by splitting attention and be hard to kill and say moving, man. But my point is that there's a whole grieving cycle that happens, and I didn't even appreciate it until now, that we do that excruciating level of planning. We're preparing our mind, body, and spirit for violence, to be a part of that, to inflict harm to those that are harming others at a very great scale, grand scale, and very intimate scale. And then we come out of it and we don't leave the room unless we've aired any tactical grievances, because if we don't, and I leave this room and I'm like, Brent's a piece of crap, man. That dude's the problem, dude. I'm the problem. I'm what's going to destroy this team, because I don't have the maturity to just tell, hey man, why did you do that? Like, why did you go this way? Why did you act that way with this? Remaining curious, man, because that's how we are one of the best, the best team on the planet for a fighting force.
I think that type of mentality that the unit instructors initially gave me, and it follows with you the rest, is something I take a lot in the training. It's awkward at first. For some of the, I hate calling them students, but I guess they're students. But some of the law enforcement guys, because I ask them a lot of questions. And no matter, even if I spill the beans, I let them know, like, hey guys, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, but just because I'm asking you a question doesn't mean you're wrong. You were wrong. I just want to know what you were thinking. And
it's like a trick question, dude.
And they feel like you're right. And so if an instructor asks you a question, they're always like, what I do wrong. And as well as I do,
funny, man.
We've seen it time and time again. Guys can do the right things for the wrong reasons and end up and stumble into the right answer, if you will. But if the why behind it isn't right, the next time they see that, they may come to a different conclusion. So you have to have the why.
It's also like just reinforcement of something that you ask a question. It's almost like it's a loaded question in the sense that I want you to respond in the way that I think I know you know.
Right.
But by you saying it in front of your team, it's going to click for everyone else, versus I could say it 10 times.
Right. Here's a great example of that. And I don't know if this might be too nerdy. Hopefully it correlates well. But it's like you have a center fed room with a center fed door perfectly in
equal distance.
Yep. And if I ask a guy, I say, hey, this is a 3 or 4 man, where should his sector start? Well, if I just had him center of the room.
Yep.
And generally speaking, we can get a little nerdier for that and say, well, that's not exactly right. But generally speaking, that's the right answer. That is where it starts. The problem is the why behind that is wrong. And if I say why, he'll say, well, it's 12 o'clock from the door. And so he had the right answer, but his why was wrong.
It's not always 12 o'clock.
Because it's not always 12 o'clock. So I say, okay, what if I move this door
3 feet to the left?
3 feet to the left.
Yep.
And now it's not 12 o'clock, because 12 o'clock now, you've broken the room into 70% and 30%. So hopefully I didn't put anyone to almost continued to go,
No.
but I'll stop there.
No, I'll
and-
keep going.
Yeah, if you want to keep going, keep going.
No,
But-
that's where they have to apply the corner fed and center fed into the same calculus of determining center of the room.
That's
And it's a
determine-
thinking man's game, dude.
Right.
Like it's not directly 12 o'clock from the door. Now in this case, it's a percentages of, okay, it's not a true corner fed, but it is a center fed because of the human sized void to the left and the right, but it's not equal distance. Now you have to apply diagonally across.
Right.
From
We
the
have to
edge of the
define
threshold,
center of the room.
outside of the edge of the threshold, right?
Right. And the best way to say it without
We'll
a
just keep
whiteboard
going,
is is my gun goes up, that split wherever I enter this room, that I split this room in half.
Yep.
So my workload is 50%. If I'm the 3 guy, and the 4 guys workload is 50% for the other half. But that's where it starts clicking for them, where they start going, okay, I can have the right answer, but if my why is wrong,
Yeah.
it's only the right answer for this scenario.
Yeah.
It'll be the wrong answer when you change one variable.
Yep. No, I think that's a wonderful way of looking at it, man. Like, because I do the same thing, and it's almost like they're at the end of every like bigger training run we do. I'm like, all right, hey, we're hot wash it. People share what they want to share. I'm like, anything else? Okay. Does anyone have anything that they need to own or share that maybe, that didn't get talked about, but they know they did wrong? And it's always this crickets thing until it's not, until the first person steps up and says, man, you know what? Like, it didn't happen this way, but I was actually going to do this and I didn't because I couldn't work this.
Yeah.
Like I was actually going to uncuff this dude and I didn't. And because I didn't, because I didn't, and the guy that actually cuffed him didn't search him, we now avoided a situation that could have been significantly worse because he had a gun on him still, and he was actually just playing like this dual role thing.
Yeah.
But because I didn't cuff him, because I didn't uncuff him, because I couldn't work my key.
Yeah.
He owned that in front of the team, and I was like, bro, thank you. Thank you.
Right.
Because what you just shared, I've been asking y'all every day for the past 5 days at the end of everything we do.
Yeah.
Does anyone have anything else to add? Anything needed to own? Anything from an integrity thing? You know, because the problem that happens is maybe they didn't see it. Maybe the team at large didn't see it, but one guy did. Mm-hmm. And he's gonna, if we don't create this environment to hot wash this stuff, like he's gonna go back and be like, man, so and so did this, man. And then he's gonna whisper to him, and he's gonna whisper to him, and then it's gonna turn into like this toxicity inside of a team that destroys the best teams out there because of individuals not wanting to take ownership or like calling people out.
Yeah.
Like in a respectful way, like, hey man, why did you, like, you were going to uncuff him, but then you didn't? Like, if he hadn't have said it, right?
Right.
Like,
it's so funny.
You started that process, then you didn't.
Right.
Like, what were you thinking there?
It became the norm to us, but you're absolutely, because that's absolutely would have happened at our heart washes. If someone saw you try to do something, and it didn't make sense to them,
even if it didn't call you out on it,
right? They were, hey, I saw you do this. Why'd you do that? What were you doing?
Yeah,
you know,
could you not, like,
you either got an answer for it or you don't.
Yeah,
but
we're so used to like
and
everybody watching everything and not just watching it and seeing it, not just like I'm trying to find something wrong with you. It's just like I was next to you, like what was going on there?
And I said, and I mean, we're human. I'm sure it's happened, but for the most part, even though a guy just called you out in front of all your peers, if you were wrong or not, no one really leaves that room going, I can't believe that guy asked me that question. And, F that guy. It's just
because it's about perspective. So if you, hey man, like, I went to go do this, and then I realized that, nah, man, I'm gonna keep him cuffed. It's about perspective. So I'm using an actual example from a training course that I just did, like last month, 5 days of a hostage rescue training. Phenomenal training event, because those guys were hungry, man. They were hungry to learn the little things, like the little things about command and control, about individual skills to shoot, move, and communicate, collective tactics, but then like how to plan, how to execute, and then how to capture those lessons learned. And that's where I think we come in, and we do. I think we do a really good job of if we're doing our jobs right, we're actually, that's how we're helping them more than anything.
I find, for the most part, there's two types of people or teams that I instruct. It took me a little bit to figure this out. One are the guys who are hungry to learn and want me to be there, and you can just tell they're hungry to. You just said about your class. Oh, those are the best courses.
Yeah.
The best courses. There's another one. Doesn't happen that often, but happens. But it absolutely happens, where I feel like they brought me in, not necessarily to learn from me, but to almost to validate their tactics and just go, yes, that's right. Yes, what you're doing is right. Yes, what you're doing is right. So that way they can, whether it's their lead trainer or someone, can turn around and be like, hey, see, like I've been right the whole time. Like he said I was right. I've definitely had people
that
come in.
should be the goal, is that you, man, we said this last night, but it was like, I don't want to ever go in and like the expectation be that we're teaching you how to do your job. Like that'd be criminal of me to think that I could do that, nor would I.
Yep.
And so what I notice is a lot of guys are like, and I say this in the beginning of any course, is like, we're here to validate things that you're doing well, to polish things that you need to work on, and to leave you guys with things to think about. But to slap the table on like your own development, like your own SOPs, and
we say the same things in a different way. I come in and I always say, hey, I'm not trying to make you guys a little Delta Force team, because you're not. You guys are a SWAT team, and but this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to show you the way that we did business, or that I did business. And if there's something you can take from that and be like, that applies to the way we do business in this particular area with our particular rules. And if you can take that away from me, heck yeah. And if I leave this place and you're 10% better than you were before I got here, and maybe that brings one guy home on your worst night, that 10% was what that took. Yeah. And that was worth the trip to me.
Yeah. Well, I think we can dive in on the bonus episode more into the training, because I think we'll talk for hours. I don't think, I know we will, about training. And I'd love to. Yeah. And we have time on the bonus episode to dive in some more. But I do want to talk about, what it's like, since you retired. What has it been like starting something for yourself? Like, and what is some of the like your least favorite and most favorite parts about starting your own thing, and what is those things?
Yeah,
like
the most nervous I've been since getting on a helicopter in the middle of the night was starting a business. And what was a little bit different, and like you, I mean, a lot of my friends have training businesses. Generally speaking, the startup cost on a training business is pretty low, and you can scale the business like with the revenue. So when you need more employees, you scale up. And I'm not saying there's no risk to those types. What I'm saying with this one, we had to have machines, and I had to have we had to have a set number of employees to be ready for what we thought we were going to launch at. I started out in debt, and so it was really, really nervous. I put my savings account into this. I put a business loan into this. I'm kind of like you. I'm actually not much of a plan. I had an old teammate once tell me that what a plan is. It's just a list of things that aren't going to happen when you hit the ground. And there's a lot of truth to that. But even though we say that, we still made plans to, we just didn't get married to them.
Yeah.
And so I wrote a business,
really like the business plan. Yeah.
So I wrote a business plan, which was actually great. Writing the business plan was great, and I learned a lot. And so the problem was when we launched, just everything I thought would happen, and I could brief this business plan to you, and if I wanted to, I'm telling you, if I wanted to pitch this to you as an investor, or even if you would be like, I want in.
Yeah.
It briefed so well. And then we launched, and it couldn't have fell on its face anymore.
And then we're talking about first responder
for FRCC, for First Responder Coffee Company, which is, we only did coffee at the beginning, and then, but like I just said, it's not about, the plan is the plan, and once at that point, we'd hit the ground, like we're on target. There's nothing we can do about it. I've already spent the money.
Yeah.
You can't say my bad. You can't just get back on the helicopter when necessarily and do a do-over.
Can't respawn.
So the only thing we could do is say, hey, like, this is what we got. Like, how, whether it's tactics or business, this is a ground truth. How fast can you identify the problem, properly identify the problem, and then how fast, can you pivot and adjust and put in a proper solution?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did. We worked and we worked and we worked. And
what do you think the biggest problem you had was in the beginning?
Biggest problem we had in a poor marketing plan that briefed well, mm-hmm. but just wasn't good enough. Yeah. Would probably be the number one thing, I would say. Something else that's a little bit superficial, but and we'll just put this on the coffee side. It doesn't matter how good I hate to say this, but it's true. It doesn't matter how good your coffee is if the bag isn't cool, if it's not wrapped in a cool product, then nobody cares. So there's a lot of people packaging, presentation. Yep. There's a lot of people. I won't name names. I'm not going to put down other businesses to make mine look better. And guess what? It's probably not the one you're thinking of, by the way, guys. But there's a lot of coffee places out there that have bad coffee in a really cool packaging, and people drink it and they sit there and they force themselves to go, "Oh, this is good coffee." Yeah. No, it's not. But that's like that in brands and all sorts of
I'm
different businesses.
Thinking of like my company as an example is like, we didn't focus on packaging, presentation, marketing. It was just like, hey man, you need help, right? Like, let's go. Yeah. Let's do it. And then pulling my head up and I'm like in debt doing it.
Right.
And I'm like, oh crap, right. How am I going to sustain this?
And there was because I'd already been, training, SWAT teams around the country at this point. I wanted to start it because I wanted to have a big give back program. Like that was going to be important. And, that was why it was important to me. Like, part of even the loan was like, hey, well, we're just going to immediately give back and show people like, who we are. And immediately we had said, hey, it's not just part of the profits, like part of the sales are going back to first responders. Mm-hmm. Because I now know as 3 years into this, you may not have profits for years. Mm-hmm. So you can say you're going to donate to first responders based on your profit and tell everybody that, and then not be profitable for 3 years and never give a penny, but you weren't lying about it. So, we gave back based on sales, which the irony is we were losing money every month and still donating. Yeah. But that was, that became difficult because once people found out that, hey, like you could reach out to this company and they might help you, we just got inundated with requests.
On the training side.
On the training side, on the, we got a guy hurt side. Hey, we're short on equipment side. We got all sorts of requests. And
So it was a percentage of sales
right,
going back to just truly helping, and
correct,
whichever way that
right, yep.
that was.
And I think what hurt the most of sorts is if these requests are coming in, they know who we are, or they found out somehow. But there would be days we'd have 1, 2, 3 sales all day. Here's a pathetic story. I'd be in my office sometimes pretending to work, just hitting refresh on my computer, going
for more sales.
Where's I'm gonna have to start firing people. Like I'm gonna have to explain to a bank why I can't pay you back. I mean, that was short lived, and at some point I'm like, all right, well this isn't gonna help. Like let's figure something else out. But that's how bad it got. But we'd get all these requests, and at some point I'd go back and look, and it's like, well, we didn't have that many sales. It wasn't that hard to find. I wonder if I got a request from this area. I wonder if anyone's even ever bought my product from this area. And so you know enough about us to reach out for help. But you've never.
But you can't support the cause.
But you can't support the cause that gives back to you. That no one in the area. So that was tough. Like I said, I'm just being transparent and reeling back the difficulties of a business model like this. But I still believe this, because hey, we're still open to this day. If you do the right thing long enough, I do believe we could have taken a shortcut. We could have done business differently. We could have been that company that just has like hot girls and guns that drink coffee, and we'd have 100,000 followers by now. And that's not, again, that's not towards, that's,
I still laugh though.
Okay. That's just, that truly was made up, but they do it on the clothing side. They do it on every side in this tactical world. Hey, give a hot chick a triangle top bikini and a gun. And it works. As far as likes and followers and things like that. Does that translate into sales? Sometimes. But we've also seen those stickers for sure.
You'll sell a bunch of stickers.
But
maybe even shirts.
I think there's something to be said about doing business the right way. And I believe the growth will be slower. Yeah. But I also believe that you'll be in business longer.
And you won't lose sight of what's most important in your life. And that's the hardest part of balancing. That's kind of my next question too, is like, but I do want to add a little bit more to what you said, because like the sweat equity that goes into starting something. And I think what makes us successful in this industries that we're in business is learning new mistakes. Like not making the same mistakes, but learning new mistakes when we do make mistakes, and we pivot very, very quickly. Not to run away from anything. It's just, all right, that didn't work. We're gonna go this way. And being honest with yourself too. For me, it's been like, I used to say this a lot, but I don't like to use this reference anymore because I am sober. And I think I said it the first time when I was sober, is I got champagne taste on a beer budget. No, the first time I heard that was I was a drunk. But I got champagne taste on a beer budget, and it's true. And that's in the beginning. Yeah, there's not that much overhead in a training company unless you have champagne taste on a beer budget. And then you're just going to buy everything that you think you need.
Right.
And then you realize, well, really, what do I need?
Right.
And I need to get really good at teaching is what I need to get good at. And part of that is going to have to give away a lot of things to reinforce that as you're building this up. In the beginning, just, creating a brand, a training brand. It's still a brand.
Yeah.
And that people can trust, but staying committed to something, making new mistakes, and then reinvesting capital in the smart ways that we're trying to, and that I know that you are. And not overstretching ourselves too thin. And that's the part about running. I know you have several businesses that you're balancing, right? Well, umbrella being FRCC, and
Right.
then like I do want to talk about that, like the coffee thing, getting that going. But then, I think maybe 2 years later, the cigar thing.
Yeah, a little less than a year later, we did
Okay.
cigars, and then 2 years later, we did bourbon.
Yeah,
which was recently.
Yeah, and I know there's like some of our followers are curious from an entrepreneur perspective about when you get into coffees. There's the trade compliance stuff, depending on where you're getting stuff from, absolutely, but a little bit less like restricted as far as cigars are, and even bourbon now,
right?
So like if you want to talk about,
oh man,
just from future entrepreneurs or current ones, what they could take away from.
So
that.
Dovetailing into, there's a lot of requests coming in. So this is actually how the cigars came about. We at some point we're like, hey, I can't just bring out another line of coffee. Like at some point, it's not like we have 5 different coffee bags, 5 different flavors. Well, if we come out with 5 more, we'll double our sales. It just doesn't work like that at some point. At some point you have a complete line, and that's kind of what you have.
Yep.
And
unless you just keep putting it in different bags.
just get
calling it something different.
Yeah. But even then, at the end of the day,
unless you're putting methamphetamine in your tier 1 blend,
because
something something hits different with tier 1 blend.
Yeah,
the tier 1 blend is hands down my favorite coffee to drink.
It's mine too. In fact,
FRCC
usually
tier 1 blend. Check it out.
I cold brew it as well, so I can't have hot coffee in the afternoon.
We'll plug that in there. I do believe, I stand by that though. It's something different, man. Especially over caffeinated person like myself.
I'm gonna cut that into a short and make that an advertisement. And give you no royalties. So thank you.
Oh well.
Dang. But yeah, just because you double, hey, if McDonald's has 10 different value meals, just because they put in 10 more value meals doesn't mean they double their money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we were done.
You're most like inundated by
right. Yeah.
Too many options.
Right. And then at some point, yeah, that's right. You can confuse the customers by giving them too many options. 100%. So sitting around, trying to figure this thing out, we weren't even smoking cigars at the time. And we didn't smoke that many cigars, but we did. We smoked cigars every now and again. And someone just made a joke and they're like, hey, what if we just did cigars? We wouldn't even have to change the name. And I was like, what? And it didn't even register with me on that. I was like, what do you mean by that? He goes, well, we could be First Responder Cigar Company. And I was like, I like that actually. Mm-hmm. And that was the beginning of it. And we ran with it. And unlike, you want to talk about like lessons learned, I feel like we started out way too heavy and into the coffee company, and what we should have done possibly, excuse me, we'll edit that out. What?
No, we won't.
Or you won't.
No, we won't. Dude.
It was not start so deep, see just enough to be, to be recognized, mm-hmm. and then see what's right and scale it from there. Once you're in the industry, you'll
it's like a market entry plan. Like, right, we're going to enter the market with these 3 things, and then.
So when we did cigars, thankfully we'd built up a small following, so the cigars were different. They weren't like the coffee. We started from nothing with the coffee. And at least when we started cigars, I don't know, we had 5, 6, 7,000 followers on Instagram. But at least it's a customer base. We had a MailChimp, email list, and we had gone to all the bigger shows, TTPOA, OTOA, NTOA, SWAT Roundup, things like that. So people kind of knew who we were. But we came out, and our cigar line is our very first, is called the Alpha because it was our very first one, mm-hmm. and sold out of it.
Yeah,
and we're like, okay, well, maybe we're onto something. But I don't know how nerdy we want to get, but this is where I learned that was the first successful product really we had. The coffee became successful eventually, but because it grew so slow, it was easy to reinvest back into the coffee and and expand and keep up with the growth, with the growth with inventory.
Yep.
So we'll just make up numbers here. When I sold 1,000 cigars in the first month, we bought 1,000 cigars. Well, the problem was, well, now I need 2,000 cigars, but the problem with what's in your profit and your profit margins is what you need to replace that one cigar, pay for rent, pay for employees, pay for the overhead of a business, and then a little bit of profit.
Yeah.
It's not built in to buy 2 cigars back and then do all those things. So it got
incremental growth.
That's right. Incremental growth.
Yeah.
So it got really frustrating that our cigar sales grew, and we grew our line from the Alpha to the Bravo to the Charlie to the Delta and the Delta Limited. And these sales are going up, and we're actually losing more money each month. But we're not really losing money because the inventory is growing. But our sales numbers are growing up, but we are not making money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could go in there and I could show you how this actually makes sense. But don't get me wrong, it's growing is still a problem. I'd much rather have that be my problem.
Mm-hmm.
But even at that rate, like, if you're going to grow, like,
a lot of people don't understand
it
that.
has its own set of problems that come with it.
Losing money is a problem. Like, that's when things need to be like restructured or pivoting completely. But you being able to do all those things is a successful company. Now, how do you make that profitable, right? But losing money every month, like where you're in the negative each time, it's like, woof, we need to scale down something.
But
in some way.
But as long as you're increasing your inventory and you're losing money, someone who's real business savvy is going to argue with me on this, and they're going to go, well, actually, you didn't lose money because your inventory is also considered, a liquid asset, and so you didn't lose money. But I'm talking about it from just a.
Well, I'm saying if it pays for itself, like if you're able to 1.2x inventory every month, but it pays for itself out of the profit margin, and then you're still able to do payroll and rent and all that other stuff. Like,
but that's the problem. So a businessman will sit there, and they're not wrong. They're not wrong, and it's like, well, you're not losing money because your inventory is part of is part of your liquid assets. Well, you can tell me that all day long, but when you're the business owner, guess what? I can't pay my rent with
cigars. Here you go, bud.
Inventory. Okay, so I get it. They're not wrong, but they're also not right either. So, but like anything, but it's not going to increase at a high rate forever. Although in a weird way, you wish it could. But be careful of that, because every month after month after month after month it increases. You better be prepared to lose money until it levels out, and then once it levels out, that's where it'll all start making sense, at least in the bank account.
Yeah.
But it takes even with growth, it takes patience.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
How does that work with the bourbon stuff now? Like,
the bourbon's the most frustrating.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you want to hear this story, because there are so many laws and restraints on bourbon and alcohol in general, and most of it comes from
because it's the devil.
Because everything in moderation.
Not everybody, exactly. I wasn't able to do that, so that's why I'm okay with talking about it.
But most of these laws are actually like holdover laws from Prohibition. So, quick history lesson in a little bit of the ATF for these laws, which was basically this, and everyone knows what Prohibition was. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm teaching anyone about Prohibition. So, but clearly at some point America was like, alcohol is bad, you can't have it. And then Americans rebelled on that. And at some point, like, okay, we can't stop it, so let's regulate it. And so they overly regulated it, basically to say, okay, right, we're going to give you what you want, but if this is what you want, like, you're going to pay.
Cost you.
It's going to cost you. And as anyone knows, like once it's easy to get a law on the book, so to speak, but it's really, really hard to get a law off the book.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at with it. So again, I'll make this as streamlined and easy to hear as possible, but it's just different. What I mean by that is my cigars and my coffee and everything is in my warehouse, and I can sell it. I can sell it pretty much to anyone in any state and anywhere in the country. Even internationally is fairly easy if you want to pay the tariff. Small business, there's a lot of things I could complain about, but generally speaking, is pretty easy. Alcohol, most states have what's called a 3-tier system, and every tier has to be separate. So I can't distill it, I can't distribute it, and then I can't retail it. They all have to be different.
Yeah.
Like so it's very confusing. And then for me, so someone, of course, we have bourbon, so it's distilled in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
That's an easy one. I'm not going to distill it anyway. Doesn't matter. But usually in any other thing, the manufacturer would just send it right to me and I would sell it. I can't even be a part of the process at all. It has to go its own state by state. So I have to have a Florida distributor, and it goes to the Florida distributor, and then he has to push it to a retailer, and that retailer has to be, and obviously an alcohol retailer that has so many oversight stipulations and regulations. It may never be me. So we have a third party that sells my bourbon,
Mm-hmm.
and every single one of them have their hands
In the pot. Yeah.
and it's crazy. And if that's not crazy enough,
So then you have to buy it from the retailer to resell.
it's essentially,
Yeah.
that's it's a little bit different than that, but that's probably the easiest way to
Yeah.
explain it. But here's what's even crazier. So let's say a store, and so we have online and we're getting into stores, but let's say a store in Georgia wants to carry our product. Well, my distributor in Florida can only distribute in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And if
You have to find one in Georgia.
so now I have to find a distributor in Georgia. So it's not that easy when someone's like, oh, I have a friend that has a store in Kansas and would love to sell your bourbon. It's not that easy. I have to go find the distributor. It's very painful as a small business owner. And what's worse yet is these large businesses, take Jack Daniel's, an easy one, right? They're set up for this. They don't care because they're in every state and they can fill every distributor with plenty and then get it pushed out. And so I've even heard of them protecting the market and basically telling distributors, hey, you're not going to pick up, if you pick up that bourbon, that small bourbon company that's growing and may hurt our sales, then we're going to take the bourbon away from you as a distributor, and we're only going to work with your competitor.
Yeah.
And you think they're going to carry a small bourbon company and risk Jack Daniel's? So it's a very cutthroat, very controlled business that if I was smarter, I would have stayed away from.
Yeah.
But here we are.
But you're in it.
But here we are.
Yeah. Well, all right, well, that was a lot. I think people need to know the successes though of this, right? Like you just talked about a lot of the struggles. This goes back to being the critic, the critic of ourselves and what we're doing. But man, you've been successful with this.
So now, yeah. So and that is a little bit of the mindset we talked about. We only talk about the struggles.
Just manifested in
right.
But my question was, what's some of the struggles? What's some of your favorites and least favorites? Like,
no, I'm gonna go back and rewalk it, just from a different light. We started out really poorly, and then at the end of the day, just being creative, having a good crew around me, hiring the right people, and just at the end of the day, does just hard work and hustle pay off? Perseverance and no quit attitude. And even when you show up to work every day and you're like, I don't think this is going to work out. And then the inner voice goes, quit being such a just, yeah. Yeah. And that's what I tell myself. I don't talk like that on the outside except just now.
Yeah.
That's a real, like, and then you go back, you're like, all right, you're right. Same thing with OTC, oddly enough. I didn't go into work every day in a jovial mood.
Yeah.
Go on to work, put on a happy
Once
face.
You saw me, you were like, you were like, oh, that clown's still here.
Go into work, put on a happy face, have a good time, work hard. And guess what? It's that slowly worked out. The cigars thing, which sounded like the success was such a pain in the butt, it was. But guess what? Man, did we need a win because we worked our butts off and we were at least still around. We were still around to have that win.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're like, holy crap, something finally worked out for us. And it's doing well. And then,
but it's translating into the coffee side too.
Absolutely,
I'm
glad you put that up.
Intrinsic value of
right
of that. The cigar side helped you add and increase the awareness of FRCC because of the way you did it.
Every side, the benefit to the more coffee sale, the beginning of finally getting a base of a customer base helped the cigars. Well, the cigars took off, and then it turned around and the cigar sales helped the coffee sales. And the same thing's happening right now with bourbon. We got a whole new customer base of people who didn't even know about us and their bourbon drink. Well, guess who smokes cigars? Bourbon drinkers. Yeah. Guess who drinks coffee? Everyone.
Everybody. Yeah.
So, and for me, the bourbon sales, this was a great realization. Even though I just complained
but
all about it, how this isn't our only product. If this was our only product, we would be in a hard place. In a hard place, right? We're already doing.
No, you have the freedom to try something you want to try.
So every bottle of bourbon that we sell was a sale we were never going to have. So we don't need a massive amount of sales to support the whole business. So that's another thing that was great. And so once the coffee and cigars kind of solidified us as a business, we're not going anywhere and things are going great. And I could have said, all right, we're good. Let's. I haven't made money. Yet. We opened this thing in 2023. I haven't made money yet, but I've continued to invest, and I do intend to make money at some point. But if I wasn't smart with money, or I don't even mean to say I wish I was smarter with money. But if I wasn't willing to do the hard thing says, like, the short answer would be like, hey, I can take some money now.
Seeing your commitments through.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you out the gate we're giving a percentage of our sales back to law enforcement, and then seeing that through is going to, in the long run, like it's gonna turn around 100% in the sense that that's the whole like karma thing. I don't really believe in karma, but I do believe that being good stewards with the opportunities that God's given us, and what's knowledge if we're not sharing it. So it's a way for you to start something for yourself, but also a way for you to give and share your own knowledge. Being a first responder in your own ways in the military, being the nation's first responder, like outside of this country. So I think it's a wonderful business model, and I'm here to support it in every way that I can. And more so, I know that that's something that in the beginning for me, like I'm just keeping my head afloat, going from one thing to the next, and we've crossed paths several times at different phases, but here we are, and I think it's a wonderful, that's God's timing is what I'm saying. So I'm here to support your initiatives, your efforts, you as a friend. And, because I take that serious, man. Like I feel like we throw around the term brothers and brotherhood and all this tribe, and man, instead of being like, oh, it was all fake. No, man. Like I was just a bit lost in how to define the quality of how to invest in the quality of connection that I want in my life, or that's been placed in my life. So I'm going to continue to be a better friend for you and as an entrepreneur, a veteran owned entrepreneur in this industry. Like Blue Bearing is here to help FRCC however we can.
But you have, like you say that, I don't know if you remember this. I'm sure you do. Remember I sent you some coffee and did an unboxing for me?
Yeah.
That was early on. We got like 1,000 followers just because you did that. And I know in today's like inflated numbers of, if you don't have hundreds of thousands of followers, what's 1,000? Let me tell you, at that time,
stuff, though,
at that time, 1,000 followers was a huge deal to us.
Well,
all
I'm saying is thank you for saying that. But I know that the reasons that even I've faced the things I've faced is to free me up to invest in the right people in the right positions inside of my own company, to free me up to be a better CEO of my company. And it's not that I'm like, oh, I was a horrible CEO. No, I'm just learning. And one of my missions as I'm gaining the margin to be able to do these things is to also see the other companies and my friends successful in this industry beyond what we used to do, what we used to do. You know what I'm saying? That's what I mean. And because my head went from just floating above the surface to freaking in it, man, to now my head is coming back out. So,
well, that's also the, the ebbs and flows of life. And even though here's what's funny about business, but so many things correlate, to me, to missions and special operations. Every mission we went on was different, but almost every mission so many missions were the same, at the same time. Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria were all so different. Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria were also so much of the same. And so is business to a degree. So what I learned from the coffee side, most of that carried over the cigar side. You just have to find what's unique about cigars. And, same thing with the bourbon. And then when, I helped launch HPTRT, it was the same thing. Yeah, it's a testosterone replacement therapy company. And yes, it's a completely different world than FRCC. Yet oddly enough, business truths are business truths.
Yeah.
And it allowed me to carry it over to the next one.
Yeah. Well, I think, man, we got so many things to still talk about, but we got the bonus episode and we will dive into a lot more. It's almost like doing it a disservice. Like we got to do this more often just because there's so much that I want to talk about with you, but for one episode, I do want to, so we are going to do the bonus episode. So check that out next week if you're watching this one. But I can't not give you. So Roca is our sponsor for the podcast, and they wanted me to give you this gift, and then Blue Bearing has a gift for you as well. So Roca Eyewear,
heck yeah.
There's 2 sets of glasses in there, but one of them is the SR1 EPs, and it's their protective line. So there's Z87 Plus, so that wraparound ballistic.
Yep.
It's got a shaded lens. It's the matte black frame with a shaded lens, and then there's a clear lens that you can switch out to.
Well,
so they're your typical like tactical glasses, but they're the most comfortable tactical glasses I've ever used because they've listened to my suggestions about certain aspects of the frame, and they've made it thinner through the temples, and that allows you to put over your ear pro, and it's not going to crush your head like the pinch points and all that over time. So they're the most comfortable glasses I've worn for long periods of time.
Isn't does Joe Rogan also sponsored by Roca?
I think they do some stuff with them. Yeah. They're based out of Austin.
Yeah. Does this mean you're going on Joe Rogan soon?
I don't know. At Joe Rogan, maybe. But then there's another set in there too
and I love that because I'm going to Oklahoma City
That's why
tonight.
That's why I threw the clear lens in there too,
Yeah,
just so you have both.
I'll be wearing them tomorrow.
And those are just the Estacado XL. It's just kind of a lifestyle frame.
Heck yeah.
That you can wear.
Heck yeah.
Just fancy. You want to show?
I love it.
Show the viewers real quick.
I sure will. And at the rate I lose glasses, I might need to look into.
There you go. Looking sharp, bud.
I feel sharp.
Yeah.
Feels good.
You ready to go? But yeah, so the timing, so we're going to go to the range too this afternoon.
Yeah.
So I needed to give you Clear Eye Pro for the range anyways, because I told you to come here with nothing.
That's right.
I was like, we'll give you everything for it.
That's the old twofer.
But now you have some Blue Bearing swag to also wear.
I love it.
It's there's 2 shirts in there and I think a couple hats, but
no, thank you.
One of those shirts, if you could pull it out, I do want to take a moment to highlight it. One are just our core Blue Bearing shirt in black. But the other one is the newest release that we just dropped. That is a part of our With You line.
Okay.
And it looks a lot like a...
Look at myself first. Look at it myself.
What does it look like?
I love that.
What does it look like to you?
A cross.
But a shoot house. But it's a cross.
But it's in a cross.
But
Yeah. Yep.
So
shoot house.
It's a part of our With You line. Yeah. So it's like...
Man, I really like that.
Yeah. So 50% of our profit goes to Frontline Healing Foundation, as a part of all of our With You lines that we come out with, like the hats, the shirts and stuff. And that's the newest one. And that's a story in itself, man,
where'd you think of that design? I mean, seriously,
there's House 9,
super
actually
cool.
House 9 Productions. He's a photographer and graphic designer out west, and just a follower of Blue Bearing. He's a patron on Patreon, and he just hit me up a long time ago and was like, hey, if you ever need help with graphics, man, just let me know. And I was like, well, I'm trying to come up with this concept, and it was his idea, the shoot house side of it. And then we just kind of tweaked it a bit. And I was like, let's make it a cross.
I love it.
Shoot house.
Yeah.
So just we kind of retain him for different projects. And stuff. But, yeah, so that's, you got some swag to wear while you're gone. And who knows, maybe we'll have Brent as a guest instructor for some courses in 2026. We'll see.
Love to do it.
I know he's a busy man, but I would love to work with you again in training on the training side.
I'll make time for you, Kyle.
I know. But the last thing I want to do is, so if y'all watched the episode most recently with Chris Fedez, Sterling Timepieces sent him a timepiece, and he waited till he came on our show to open it, to unbox it. And they messaged me once they saw that release, and they were like, well, it's only fitting that we get you, we put one on your wrist since you allowed him to open it up on your show. Would you be willing to wear one? And I was like, yep. So they sent me one. I just want to unbox that real quick too. So packaging is nice. Yeah. Do the whole unboxing.
Oh yeah.
Nice felt bag here. Some things in there. Sterling timepieces. Comes in its little case. Yeah, buddy. So it's the Durant GMT in black, and it comes with the rubber strap, and they call this the Zulu strap, I think, as well. It's like a NATO strap, I believe. The black Zulu. It's pretty nice, isn't it? So they actually wanted me to give this to Starship Commander. So this is his. this is actually from Sterling Timepieces to give to Starship for all his work.
No way.
Yeah.
Let's go.
This way.
Heck yeah.
Now you can continue to just give it as well, and to a guest.
He actually isn't like that.
Pass it around the room. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sick.
you're gonna get your gifts.
That's cool.
That is a pretty cool watch.
Dude, look at that. Sweet.
Yeah.
Love this job.
Yeah, Starship Commander. So
getting
he's
better.
that unsung hero behind the scenes, man. That, man, this podcast wouldn't even be possible. I would have been me with a webcam. People would have already said, "Quit now, quit while you're ahead, Kyle. Stick to training." Yeah. But this, that's the way that Starship puts these things together. The amount of time he puts in is just kind of behind the scenes. And I think it's a cool gesture that they see you, so they wanted to thank you with that gift.
Thank you to everybody who's watching. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Sterling Timepieces, as well. No, I appreciate it, guys. They're based out of, I want to say they're veteran owned or operated, based out of the UK. So very cool company, quality product, lower price point for a timepiece as well, but very high quality. But check them out. Yeah. So I think that's it for this episode. This has been a really good one, man. I know that we could keep talking for hours, and I do want to,
well, we did
leave a bit for the bonus episode too.
Yeah, we did bore your wife for a while last night talking tactics.
We did.
We couldn't stop.
Yeah, we couldn't. I was so excited. I was like, I'm not crazy. Everything you were saying, I was like, yes, dude, yes.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. But no, we do hope you enjoyed this episode. Please don't forget, use this link to subscribe to Blue Bearing's Patreon to watch the bonus episode of Brent Tucker and I that we're gonna sit down and film, and all the bonus episodes that exist there can only be seen there. So Starship posts it also in an audio format, so you can listen to it if you're just a listener. But thank you for all your support, and I really do look forward to this podcast growing, and thank you so much for being on here.
Can we talk about necklace slings on the bonus episode?
Yeah, necklace in our slings.
Okay.
Yep, we're gonna talk about slings and Jesus and white lights.
And Jesus.
White lights and Jesus.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. White lights and Jesus.
Yeah.
Perfect.
No,
that'll make more sense if
watch the bonus
episode.
If you're curious what we're talking about.
Glad to be here. So happy you could change your schedule last second as well to make it here. Allow me to be here. Thank you so much, Kyle.
Man, and we failed to do this, but Brent's new podcast, Tier 1 podcast.
Yeah.
I'm going to be one of the first guests.
You'll be one of our first guests with the Tier 1 podcast.
Yeah.
So yeah, you used to be, if people know me, they probably know me from the Anti-Hero podcast, starting the Tier 1 podcast. Very first episode will be October 23rd. It'll be a live, so that way, I can talk back and forth to people. Apparently some people have questions for me. I'll answer them, and we'll kick it off then.
So join that live October 23rd if you have questions that you want answered. He just told you he's going to answer them then, and then I think you're going to do that once a month, the live.
Yeah, we'll put out an episode every week. We'll do a live first Thursday of every month, and it's Tier 1, TIER, the number 1 podcast,
and then Patreon.
Yep, and we have same thing, same spelling with the Patreon, same thing with Instagram.
Yep.
So
no, and we're here to. I'm excited, man, and we're here to support anyway. I'll be a guest on the Tier 1 podcast here soon. I think in November at some point. I'm going down that way.
I will not be as professional as you, and I will have some awkward questions for you.
Good.
I'll figure those out.
You think I was professional on this one? Thank you, bud.
You've been warned.
Good. Well, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Check us out for next week's on the bonus episode of Patreon, and for the Tier 1 podcast release October 23rd. Is that the first release?
Yep. Hey, and
that's soon, bud.
Ask Andy Stump, and until you've put a guest in a hot tub on your podcast, you've been more professional than me.
All right, I'm excited. But let's just all continue the podcast.
Right.
See you on the next one.